Good Monday evening, everybody. Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. We've been tracking those heavy downpours. I know not everybody has seen them, but here on Live Weather Impact, we will track some of the downpours now developing around Charlotte South. It's been kind of the hit or miss. I know there's a lot of misses, but boy, if you're getting hit, there is some really heavy rain. Let's go right to our radar. We could show you, these slow-moving, just kind of meandering storms. Look how they're developing, or what we call back building, meaning they're moving from east to west kind of. You see some of these downpours, especially in Union County. That's some really heavy rain around Monroe to Waxhaw. Then you move towards Matthews, Ballantyne, areas over there towards Lake Wiley, Fort Mill. You're continuing to see these kind of build, but we do have a couple flood warnings, and this is a legit warning here for Anson and Richmond counties, because that cell has not moved for a while. So that flash flood warning is up until 8:30 tonight. And again, I'll put on the actual warning text here so you could see it real quickly. There's a warning to the north. The Montgomery-Stanley one, not as pressing as the Richmond-Anson County one, because that is definitely producing some flash flooding. We'll give you some rainfall estimates. Look at Ellerby. I mean, now this is a 24-hour total, just so you know. I'll double check, make sure I got 24-hour total here. Sometimes we have 48 turned out. I didn't want to give you a heart attack there. That all happened in 24 hours, but that is still a lot of rain. I mean, 6 inches, and again, this is a radar estimate, so there's a little bit of bias in that, but still, if you cut that in half, that's 3 to 4 inches of rain. That's significant rainfall in an area that's going to have rapid runoff. To the north, we did get a lot of reports around the Baden area, north of Albemarle, towards Norwood, of some heavy downpours and some flash flooding. So creeks and streams definitely could be out of their banks pretty quickly. And in Mecklenburg County, because of the impervious surfaces, concrete, roads, rooftops, this stuff runs off pretty quickly. So we'll keep an eye on this. South Charlotte right now, haven't seen anything too crazy. I will tell you a couple locations I'm watching right around the Park South Drive fire station over in the Beverly Woods neighborhood. Almost 2 inches of rain has fallen in the past 24 hours. That's one of the wetter spots. And then a few spots down towards Providence High School, around inch and a half. So there are some pockets of very heavy rain out there. But the good thing so far is a lot of this has been not causing significant flooding, because we got a lot of room in our creeks and streams. So this is helping out. To the north, we're going to talk about this in a minute when Alex joins me from WFMY, but we saw some incredibly heavy rain in our northern counties, the Unifor region, then up towards Surrey County, where there's radar estimates of about 10 inches of rain, and significant flooding was observed up in that area. Very interesting radar satellite image. You kind of see the low pressure system kind of pivoting through the area. So you could see we've got low pressure, stalled front. That's going to provide ample moisture tonight for additional showers and storms. But that front is sagging south. So by tomorrow, the risk for flash flooding shifts to our south and west, and we start to see some drier conditions begin to infiltrate the area and kind of get the rain out of here. But tonight, we still got a legit chance of that heavy rain. So just a heads up, it won't fall everywhere I should say, but if you're under one of those slow moving storms, be prepared for some flash flooding. Tomorrow, ugly in the morning, then in the afternoon, temperatures should moderate a little bit. We actually could see some sunshine. I think we get close to the maybe the upper 80s, depending on the amount of sunshine or even thinning of the clouds that we begin to see. Here's a look at our futurecast, kind of showing those showers and storms kind of right along the North-South Carolina border tonight. By tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., it's still misty, drizzly, cloudy, but we're starting to dry out. And as we go into the afternoon, could see full sunshine by this time tomorrow. So really a nice end to your Tuesday. Wednesday looks equally as nice as well, but starting to get a little hot. So we will have several days to dry out, and then the heat, the humidity, and the dryness returns for a couple of days. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But this weekend, it's not like this weekend when we got a stalled front, but we get into an active storm track because of this heat dome building out west. We're going to see northwest flow, and probably all along the East Coast, we're going to see the chance for scattered showers and storms. So not only is it going to get hotter, but we could see the wet pattern return. By next weekend, we're looking at the 6 to 10 day outlook, basically the end of next week into the weekend. You're looking at the potential that we're going to see above average rainfall. So I like to see that. That's actually a good setup. So tomorrow, not a great start to the day. Ugly, dreary, misty kind of day. Temperatures in the 70s, but by the afternoon, with some breaks in the cloud cover, some sunshine, even maybe full sun for a few spots, we could make it into the mid and upper 80s and very, very sauna-like out there. Your Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Cloudy, dreary tomorrow morning, then the sun comes out, and boy, does it get hot. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, mid to upper 90s. We could be flirting with triple digits, but then this weekend, you can see we start to see that kind of stormy pattern return, scattered showers and thunderstorms possible, especially in the afternoon and evenings. And because of that, we could see, again, another brief cool down. Our average high now up to 91. We could see temperatures for next week kind of holding steady in the mid to upper 80s, but a pretty good stretch of weather there to help us out with the drought. We'll see how much progress we make this weekend. And today, our drought monitor comes out on Thursday. It will include all the rain that has fallen in the last couple of days. But again, we'll check the radar here. Alex Williams will join me shortly. We'll be tracking these showers and storms across our area. We'll talk about flooding up in his area. We'll talk about the tornado warning, which you guys saw here on Live Weather Impact in real time as we were tracking it last Friday. We got some video from that, and we'll talk a little about that. That's coming up in 2 minutes and 30 seconds after the break, so stick around and stay right there.
Weather Impact Live with Brad Panovich is sponsored by Moisture Lock, crawl space, basement, and foundation repair experts serving the Carolinas since 1988.
Tired of all this rain? Does your yard look like a swamp after it rains? Hi, I'm Greg Doggett with Moisture Lock, Charlotte's premier waterproofing and foundation repair company. The longer water sits, the softer soil will become. This can cause foundation issues. If you're having drainage issues, contact Moisture Lock. We'll get the water away from your home and out of your yard.
Moisture Lock. Stabilize, enhance, protect.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Alex Williams joins me from WFMY. And Alex, I think the story of the weekend and really today has been the slow-moving downpours. It has not rained everywhere equally, but if you've been under some of these, you're getting a ton of rain. And we saw some flooding last night. I'm tracking real time some pretty good downpours down in our area. We've got a couple flood warnings we want to pass along again. If you're in Anson County, Richmond County, as well as parts of Randolph, Montgomery, and Stanley County, though it looks like the rain in Stanley County's let up a little bit, but we've seen a lot of flash flooding with these slow-moving storms. And then last night, Alex, up in your neck of the woods, up in Surrey County, we had a stationary storm. I was watching that last night. That thing didn't move for the longest time, and some of the rainfall estimates were like close to double digits, but it looks like some of the real gauge totals were a little bit less than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was looking, and that was one thing I was communicating, because sometimes it can be confusing. I mean, in the real time, we're trying to give you an estimate of how much rain has fallen. And so we use rainfall estimates, but they're not the most accurate, right? They typically tend to be a little overinflated. Maybe you can go into the science of why there, Brad. But what we're seeing is still almost 5.5 inches of rain at Raven Knob, and that's in Surrey County. And then into Sparta itself, almost 5 inches, about 4.74 inches of rain there. And so just quite a lot of rainfall. It doesn't take a whole lot to cause flash flooding, but thankfully not seeing actual measurements of 8 to 9 inches.
Yeah, when I saw some of the rainfall totals, I was like, okay, that makes more sense, because some of the radar estimates were like ridiculous. We would have seen a lot more damage and probably roads washed out. But yeah, talk a little bit about that area, Alex, for folks that aren't familiar with that, because there is some terrain up in that area as well. So runoff is always a concern when you're kind of anchoring a shower storm up against an escarpment or some mountains. And so that runoff is usually exaggerated a little bit up in that area.
Yeah, indeed. And so if you look at like where the rainfall estimates were kind of plastered, it was up along the county line between, say, Allegheny County and into Surrey County, and the terrain starts to go up there, and so some of the higher terrain got some of those very, very high amounts. You can see the airport there still received almost 3/4 of an inch of rain actual measurement, but those rainfall estimates were higher, a little bit over the higher terrain. And of course, that's why we call it the foothills, right? Because they're the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. Here, we're not necessarily flat, but we're kind of flat, and then we kind of go up into the foothills, and then from the foothills you go up into the mountains. And so Surrey County is there. You've got Pilot Mountain around that area as well, and some of the other mountains, which Tim knows a whole lot better than I do. But nonetheless, you do see the terrain increase pretty sharply. Just if you've ever driven I-77 from Charlotte up into Virginia and you're looking out over to the right, you can see how steeply the terrain rises and then just how flat everything else is.
Yeah, you're literally kind of riding on that ridge. You see it drops off. It is like a giant ramp up there. Let's go back 24 hours. I want to show the radar here. I'll have Rachel pull this up for me. So I pulled up the 24-hour loop here, and Alex, you can look at this as well. So this started last night, and you could see those showers and storms kind of start there, and then look them. They just kind of kept building. We call this back building sometime, but you can see that they just kept driving back to the west. And you're right along that county line. It just felt like it was just getting hammered again and again. And, this is a 24-hour loop, but right in here, it was like around midnight last night that things really ramped up. And then, this is 6 o'clock this morning. It's still raining in that area. So that was one of those things that we worry about a lot, that we call it terrain anchoring, Alex. And we see this a lot in our mountain counties. And with the kind of flow we had today, it's kind of abnormal. We could talk about how cool it's been today, only kind of in the 60s and 70s for your area. We got into the 80s down here, but still that's way below average. It's kind of weird. We got this low pressure. We got this stalled front. We got northeast flow to the north. We've got southerly flow to the south. If you're going to get slow-moving thunderstorms, today was probably the perfect setup for it.
Yeah, and we just didn't have a whole lot of flow aloft either. So the mid-levels is what we call steering flow, and it's very, very poor in the summertime because we don't have a strong jet over us. And so the storms are able to kind of just lackadaisically back build, kind of build back against the normal direction of flow. Plus the easterly wind is pushing all that moisture into higher terrain, so we're getting a little bit of that enhancement of the rainfall from some of the terrain as that rain just kind of gets pushed up and embanked against the mountains.
Yeah, it almost kind of reminds me of like an early fall setup where we got a tropical system, like a remnant low merges with a front or something. It's kind of similar. Thank goodness we didn't get that, because we would have had some severe weather to deal with. But I know your crews were up there in parts of Surrey County and got some video, and it kind of reaffirms what we saw from the estimates and also the actual gauge totals. The video was pretty impressive. I didn't see too many structures impacted, Alex, but did we have some roads that were impacted up in that area?
Yeah, there was a couple roads, and then our Kevin Kennedy was up there, and he was talking about a farmer that was kind of cut off from his farmhouse because there's one bridge across the water, right? So there's one bridge across the water, and that bridge had water running over it. So until the water recedes, they're not going to know what the damage is that was caused there in that area. But yeah, so if you see water rushing over the roads like this, don't drive through that. You want to turn around, obviously. You don't know how deep the water actually is. The road could have been completely washed out underneath, and you could be driving into a raging torrent of water. You just don't know. So turn around, don't drown. That's why we say that so often. But you can see it here. I mean, that's almost 5.5 inches of rainfall. That's what that'll do. You'll see those creeks and streams that are normally harmless, they become raging torrents of water.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, that torrent right there. And you're right, Alex.
Yeah, that's over the river.
Yeah, when you get in there, you just don't know, because it looks like that might be shallow water, but it's probably eroding asphalt and the road surface, and that's where it gets really dangerous, because people think they're driving into like a foot of water, and the road might be completely gone. We've seen that happen quite a few times, and so just better not to drive through this area. We see sinkholes and all kinds of washouts because of that. But that's pretty impressive, and that for that farmer, it's obviously a big deal to his property, because it's cut off his access to some of his land, and I'm sure that was a big issue for them. Do we have Kevin's sound up there from up there? Because he had it up there early this morning. Now he was right in the middle of that this morning.
No way to get there. A river raging, a family wondering.
When it floods, you lose the bridge for a little while, and we'll see what we have when this one's receded.
Chef Ollinger owns this farmhouse on the river. This is the main way in and out. His daughter visiting from Texas.
We've been here for a few days, and we leave in a couple days, so that's what we were looking at, how we're going to get the car out. So
the water receding, but the bridge has taken a beating. There is significant concern.
It looks like it might be bowing a little bit, but they've got to wait till the water goes down to double check the structure and everything to make sure it's sound.
The nearby crops in need of this rain, but this may be more than they'd hoped for.
In Surrey County, Kevin Kennedy, WFMY News 2.
That bridge, that's a good idea that they're going to check that after. The power of water always amazes me, and especially when you have debris in there. And we saw this, unfortunately, with Helene, just the power that these flash floods can have. And even on a small bridge like that, there could be significant damage that's underneath the water line. You got to wait for it to recede to see it.
Yeah, I mean, that reminds me of being in East Tennessee during Helene, and a lot of those bridges completely just washed out because the water rose so high around the Nolichucky River, and so bridges completely washed out. But even bridges such as the I-26 bridge that collapsed, that not necessarily had water running over it, it was running under it. But all of that debris hits those structures, and it weakened it to the point that it actually collapsed.
Wow. Yeah, water never ceases to amaze me. It's probably one of the most powerful forces of nature we have, and I think people take it for granted sometimes. And it is crazy to think we're talking about flash flooding, Alex, in the middle of a drought. But as we've talked about in the past, sometimes the drought can exaggerate this runoff because the ground is just not accepting of the water right away. And it really doesn't matter, to be honest. If it rains that hard for that quickly, it's going to run off regardless. And so, even in the midst of a drought, it goes to show you that we can get flash flooding.
Yeah, and then the clay right now is hard baked, and so that's not going to absorb very much water down into the ground table. Hopefully some of it went down into the ground table. We see those water tables start to come up a little bit, and that would help us with the drought. But it really creates more runoff, and it doesn't absorb it like it normally would if we weren't in a drought.
Yeah, last night for Charlotte, we didn't get a ton of rain down here, but there was a lot of rain in what we call the Unifor region, which folks that aren't familiar, that's where Burke, Caldwell, Catawba, and Alexander County come together. That's basically the Hickory metro. We saw a lot of rain in that area, Alex, and why that's important to us in Charlotte and really important for everybody. Good news for them, they got rain, but that's the main catch basin of the headwaters of the Catawba River. So for the big lakes like Lake Norman, Lake Hickory, Lake Wiley, Mountain Lake, that water all drains down into those lakes. So I'll be curious to see how the water levels respond the next couple of days. Even though the runoff was rapid, it is going to get caught hopefully by some of the area lakes, and we can retain that. I was looking at Lake Norman today. It did come up a little bit, not crazy, but at least that's a good spot for rainfall for us to get our water supply back up. So I'm hoping, where does the water drain up there in Surrey and Allegheny County? What river basin does that go into?
I think it's the Mitchell River up there.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure what basin that goes into. I mean, obviously it would come out of the foothills and then down into probably some of the northern basins here, but I don't know the hydrology enough there to know that answer.
Yeah, I wonder if is that the northern Yadkin Valley? I wonder if that goes into the Yadkin River eventually.
It might be the Yadkin.
And
that
I think
would make sense.
And I think some of it might flow west into the New River, which is kind of a weird thing. The New River actually flows north up there in Ashe County. It goes up into Virginia, and then it goes into the Ohio River. So it's a weird spot. There's people don't realize there's the Eastern Continental Divide too, where the water, some of it goes to the Gulf, some goes to the Atlantic, and up in parts of the mountains, depending on what side of the ridge you're on, the water goes a different direction.
Yeah, and then the fact that New River, and then they've got the state park there, New River State Park, which is beautiful. If you've never been up there, definitely go explore that, and you can see the weird river flowing north instead of south.
Yeah, I was up in Ashe County, and it's always kind of cool to get on a kayak or a raft, and you go north instead of south or east, and it is a great little river up there. Hey, Alex, last week at this time we were together, and we were tracking storms, and we had a tornado warning pop up in the middle of the show, and it was a really fascinating setup meteorologically because we had a bow echo interacting with an outflow boundary. And so while the atmosphere wasn't really ideal for tornadoes, it was more downburst setup. It goes to show you that sometimes these small mesoscale features, if they interact correctly, you can get a quick spin up. And sure enough, we had an EF1 tornado touchdown, and in real time, Alex, it's kind of rare for us. I actually saw a debris signature on radar, and so I knew there was something getting lofted into the air. And sure enough, the Weather Service went out there, and you're looking at some of the pictures of the damage, rated it as a EF1 tornado with 90-mile-per-hour winds, and it was on the ground for 6.9 miles, 150 yards wide. So pretty significant little tornado considering it really wasn't an ideal setup. I'll bring up the map here so Rachel can kind of show you. But the general area we're talking about, it's not even plotting, but this is the area we're talking about. It's an EF1, 6.9 miles, and this happened right around 7 o'clock. I think the first touchdown was during our show. It was like 6:49. It kind of caught me off guard initially when I saw it, but then when I look at the radar signatures, I'm like, oh, there's rotation there. And then the correlation coefficient, which is a product we look at for debris, we could see a debris signature. But that was a nasty storm all around because then it ended up producing a bunch of straight line damage. You're looking at some of the shelf cloud videos. Alex, I can't remember the last time I got so many shelf cloud pictures. It was like the same shelf cloud from like 100 different angles. It was so cool.
Well, yeah, which is a weather geek is exactly what you want, right? I mean, that is, you got not only a shelf cloud, you got the pancake stack shelf cloud, which is like just so beautiful with the blues and the hues in there from maybe some of the hail being lofted in the updraft of that. But yeah, the fun fact, Brad, that was the first tornado warning I've actually covered since moving here in November, was on our Weather Impact show. And yeah, you're right, that I remember looking at the rotation, I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely rotating. It's significant. And then, of course, as soon as we tossed to you, you pulled up the debris there, the correlation coefficient, and sure enough, blue splotch right in the middle. I mean, that's textbook. That was crazy, and it interacted with that outflow boundary. That outflow boundary interacted right with it. Enough streamwise vorticity will spin along that gets ingested at the correct angle, that critical angle. It was met, and we had a tornado.
Yeah, in hindsight, you look back at that, and that's something you can't, because the environment wasn't conducive. There wasn't a lot of wind shear, but it kind of reminded me of like a sea breeze interaction with an outflow near the coast. We see that sometimes, and but the radar was telling. I mean, you look at the radar, I was like, man, there's a tornado. I haven't seen a debris signature on radar in a long time, and I was fairly confident we had a tornado based on the radar. We can confirm it now based with the radar data, but we started getting damage reports, and then you're looking at video. Carson sent this in, and it's only a 4-second clip, Alex, but this was the only video I could find, and just to show you, this is a pretty rural area. It's pretty mountainous. There's a lot of trees. So even if there was a tornado that was really visible, there's not a lot of people there that are going to get a good view of it. That's pretty common in the Carolinas. I think everyone expects it to be like Rachel's Oklahoma, where we get these vivid pictures of low precipitation supercells. Here in the Carolinas, if there's a tornado, it's just going to look like a wall of water, and you're not going to see much.
Yeah, and you can actually see the condensation funnel on that a little bit. If you look at the video towards the top part of that, you could see the condensation funnel whirling or rotating as it moved by. So thankfully we got that. We got the confirmation of the damage. But yeah, I mean, radar basically confirmed that we had a tornado by that tornado debris signature, the TDS that we look for oftentimes.
Yeah, when I went back and looked at the track that they put, it was like you could have just taken the TDS signature and lined it up right there. And it was crazy because it touched down in a town of Kaiser, which is in northern Cleveland County, briefly crossed into Lincoln County, and technically made it into Catawba County. So it made it into 3 counties. Just a weird spot there where you've got 3 counties come together. But yeah, that happened during our show, and we were on it pretty quickly. And it's just another reason why this is a great place to tune in, because if you were watching us in real time, you saw us track that thing almost immediately. And boy, what a crazy pattern that was last week. Now this week we're talking about flash flooding and rain tonight. But Alex, later this week it looks like, well, we're not going to be under that heat dome. We're going to get at least a little taste of heat returning for a couple of days.
Yeah, it kind of just spreads out over us very briefly, and that'll at least make it very hot. I mean, we're talking mid to upper 90s forecast here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you're forecasting in Charlotte there, but it's going to be hot.
Yeah, I got 98 on Friday, 97 Thursday, but I'm not going to be shocked, if we get up there a little hotter. I think the interesting thing about next weekend, and we talked about this last week, I think, is because we're on the east side of that heat dome, we'll have to watch for another stormy pattern next weekend into early next week, because all those disturbances coming around what we call the ring of fire, we're going to kind of be in that path. So we could get into another active pattern next weekend around this time.
Yeah, and it goes to show that even when we're in the summer months, you can still get severe weather because we have the heat, the humidity, both those ingredients create explosive thunderstorm development, and you can even get tornadoes to sneak in there with the right interaction with outflow boundaries.
Yep, rare summer tornado, but we got it right here on Live Weather Impact. All right, thanks everybody for joining us. We're out of time tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Stick around. We got more news coming up after the break.